let's talk about some of the practicalities of getting around a country where you don't speak the language. Welcome to the How to Travel Full-Time podcast. I'm your host, Heather Markel. If you're dreaming of full-time travel or moving abroad, but stuck at the emotional, financial, and logistical challenges, this podcast is for you. I'll help you trade overwhelm for information that gets you from down and stuck to up and going. You can dream about the travel lifestyle, or you can live the travel lifestyle. If you're ready to live it, then let's jump in together. I'm recording this episode from Taiwan. This is my first visit to this wonderful country. Side note, I highly recommend coming here. It is stunningly beautiful. Now, the main language in Taiwan is Chinese and, of course, Taiwanese. I don't speak either one of them. I mean, I know when I learned how to say hello, ni hao. I don't know if you ever heard of the show Ni Hao Kai Lin. It was a cartoon series I used to watch, so got the ni hao down. And I know how to say thank you in Chinese because of this wonderful Chinese woman I met in Peru, so xie xie. But that's about it. So that gets me in the door, and then I'm kind of stuck. So I thought I'd go over some of the things that I do in countries like this where I don't speak a language, and the language is very different, and I'm not going to be able to pick it up on my own, certainly not fluently, but even basic phrases might be really difficult to pick up when you're just there for a short period of time. So let me go through some of what I consider some helpful practicalities. So the first thing is, make sure you have an app like Google Translate or something like it on your phone. It's extremely useful. I cannot tell you the number of times where it has saved me and allowed me to communicate with someone from, restaurants, like going into a restaurant, ordering, talking to police officers, getting help in the metro, basically everything. It's really, really useful. And especially if you're going to smaller and remote cities where English may be less prevalent than in the large cities, you really need an app like that. So here's the thing though, an important aspect of using an app like Google Translate when you're in another country and you're not going to keep your cell phone service provider. So let's say you're coming from America and you use AT&T. And, it costs like $12 a day for an international plan. And, that money can really add up really quickly, which is why it's a lot less expensive to go get an eSIM or a local. I like the local physical SIMs in a country, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper too. And you're going to want to have some kind of cell phone coverage. Because sure, you can turn off all your roaming settings and keep your US number and go on Wi-Fi. However, if you're in a taxi or you're in a location where there is no Wi-Fi or the Wi-Fi sucks, then your ability to talk to someone is going to get really difficult. So just make sure that when you're using apps like this, you've planned for some sort of local cell phone coverage in addition to Wi-Fi, so that wherever you are, you can use this app. Now, if you're in a main city, it's very likely that a lot of people speak English. I hate this as a cop-out because I firmly believe that when we are visitors and we go to another country, it's really, the onus is on us to learn the local language and the local customs as best we can. We should not expect other people to speak our language. I'm sure you could respect if someone comes to America and expects you suddenly to break out in like French or Spanish or Chinese or whatever it is that, you'd feel like, hey, you should make some some effort to learn English or have an app like this so that we can talk, right? The thing is, if you can learn the local word for, words like hello, please, thank you, probably where's the bathroom. If you have allergies, you definitely also want to print some sort of card and get it laminated and take it to restaurants so that, in the local language, and you can just hand that. It's another big tip. If you do have food allergies, definitely do this. Get someone before you go to help you translate your allergies and into a phrase, print it on like a business card or something, and then get that business card laminated if you don't have a laminator, and carry that in your wallet. It will help a lot. So look, if you basically have these key basic phrases, the hello, the please, the thank you, then it's just a much nicer experience to approach someone and say hello in their language and then ask if they speak English. It's just more polite. Another tip is have taxi apps like Uber. And these become really great overseas where you don't speak the language, because that allows you to just plug in the address where you're going or the name of the hotel or location you're going, and you don't have to communicate anything to the taxi driver, right? They get the address, they know exactly where they're going, you're reassured that they're going to take you to the right place, and you can follow the ride on your phone, so all of that ends up being really helpful. Google Maps, on average, is also really helpful. To get from point A to point B, it's really helpful figuring out the route for subways, buses, even walking. I often, when I jump on any public transportation, I keep Google Maps up and I follow along, because I have the local phone service. And I follow the map, which, my dot of where I am is moving as I'm going on the bus or the subway. And then I can tell where I am in relation to where I'm going and be fairly certain I'm going to get off at the correct stop. And that's actually really helpful with buses, because Taiwan is not an exception where, man, they drive really fast. So stops kind of go, go, go. And I did find that on buses, the stops were listed first in Chinese, which was of no use to me, but then they listed, in English characters. So that was definitely helpful. But having that with the Google Maps was just double reassurance that I was going the right direction and to the right place. Now, unfortunately, I know places like South Korea is a place where Google Maps just does not work. And, I found that I could use it as long as, if I plugged in the address I was going and didn't hit search or do anything else, then I could basically follow the dot. There was no directional control. I had to kind of figure out that I was walking basically towards the location that I wanted to go. It was a little bit of a hit or miss kind of thing. So that's a place that's not reliable. And then you have to use in South Korea, they have something called Kakao Maps, which can get difficult because there's I used 3 different map apps, because one of the apps I had to enter addresses in Korean, which I don't speak and I don't know the characters. So it was kind of like a hodgepodge solution. But on average, many places that you're going to go will allow you to use Google Maps, and it really is a great way to get around. And of course, if you're in a place like South Korea where you can't use Google Maps or not its full functionality, there will be other apps and you just have to adapt to them. Another helpful thing is that wherever you are, there are a lot of pictures. So, where's the bathroom? It's fairly universal that the sign for a woman and a man being, toilets, like the one figure has pants on and one has a skirt or a dress on. So those symbols are pretty easy to find anywhere in the world you go. And you might have a chuckle as well when you're using the bathroom, because there's a lot of funny pictures. I remember in New Zealand, there were a lot of pictures with showing someone squatting on top of the toilet and a big X through it. So, and there's other kind of, just, you'll see. There's some really fun signs that you'll get used to as you travel the world. Now, by the way, another side note, the toilets in subway stations in Taipei are very clean and very plentiful. So a lot of places I wouldn't dare use a subway bathroom, but these were great. And they were well maintained, they're staffed, they're safe. So really, really handy when you are traveling around and know that you'll need a bathroom. So the other thing is, you need to make an effort to learn local customs. So, this trip, I stayed in a number of boutique hotels, and I learned that housekeeping isn't done unless you ask for it. And I think it's actually because it's based in trying to be environmentally friendly. And, in America, they usually have like a sign in the bathroom, like kind of a, they have like a do not disturb sign on the door, and then they have a hanging tag in the bathroom in the hotels where it says, and sometimes in Europe too, that they're trying to mind the environment. If you're okay reusing your towels, then just hang them up. But if you want them washed, put them on the floor. Well, in Taiwan, it's pretty much like, we're not going to service your room at all unless you ask for it. So it's just handled very differently, and it's important to learn things like that so you don't end up feeling like, oh my gosh, how terrible, they don't clean hotel rooms. Nope. Learn why that is the case and then adapt to it. Another neat cultural difference I noticed in Taipei as a native New Yorker was how they approached the subway. So, in New York, my God, it's just like people crowd on, there's pushing, there's, you might have been the first person to the platform and wait 20 minutes, but by the time the train comes, so many other people have come that you might miss the train because everyone goes in front of you. Well, not in Taipei. It's pretty cool. They have arrows and lines where they want you to queue up. And they're very serious about, like, if there's 3 people lined up and you try to go next to them or cut them off, you go behind the line, and it's a very orderly arrangement, and it's very peaceful and nice compared to the New York experience. So pay attention to those small and big differences and do those things. Rather than being upset by these differences, try to work within them. And so I'm just reminded that, practically speaking, going to another country where you don't speak the language does not have to be this big, scary experience. In last week's episode, I gave you some specific stories where, I was worried about things and they worked out just fine. And I just wanted to inspire you with, stories of things that work out, even though you don't speak the language. And this week, I wanted to give you some practical tips and knowledge so you have those at your fingertips when you do go somewhere where you don't speak the language. I'll be back next week with some ideas on adapting to new cultures, which is an important thing if you are going to be traveling the world. And in the meantime, you can check out the Full-Time Travel Academy for ideas and tools to start your full-time travel adventure. Talk to you next week. Thanks so much for listening to the How to Travel Full-Time podcast. If you loved it, please leave a review and let us know. Make sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes. Check out the show notes for important resources related to this episode, and come visit us at travellifestylecoach.com to learn more great information. If you're ready to get started with the lifestyle, go to moneyfortravelbootcamp.com, where you can learn all the strategies to afford this amazing lifestyle. Talk to you next week.